Kijk maar eens.
Oké, nou ben ik in één keer verdraaid.
Dat is niet Suzanne.
Als je lang drukt, dan krijg je dus dan gaat hij zich weer heroriënteren.
Ja.
En als je kort drukt,
Hallo Stefan.
als je kort even drukt,
Hallo, Inge.
dan kom je in het Oculus menu weer terug.
Dat is wel grappig hoor. Ah, jij bent van Connect 2.
Zie je dat? Als je
Yes.
heel kort even
Juist. Ja, jij weet precies wat wij gaan doen.
dan zie je het minuutje van
Ik heb het eerder meegemaakt, ja.
Ja. Heb je het ook
En
gebruikt?
dan met de trigger
Heb ik ook een...
Ja, ik ben ook weer van de ontwikkelaars.
wijsvinger kun je dan weer
ik ben
terug.
wel heel benieuwd. Als we kijken naar
dat heb ik
trainen
net
in
gedaan.
een productieproces bij
En
ons, wat we dan nodig hebben om dit te bouwen.
Drukt houdt,
Ja,
dit is
we zijn ook
natuurlijk,
al...
het Oculus rondje en dan wordt
Zeg
het
maar?
even weer gecentreerd.
Ja.
Nou, ik zeg, dit is
Oké, ja, dat
natuurlijk
heb
een
ik net
wereld die
gedaan.
gebouwd
Ik wist
is,
niet
maar
dat
wij
dit
hebben
al
dan
doen
een
was,
hele
maar
lange
dat,
productielijn en die
Maar als je dus
is er al
op een
natuurlijk.
stoel,
En die
op
wil
een
je
stoel
eigenlijk
gaat
naar
zitten,
een
dan,
trainingsruimte brengen.
Dan komt hij weer
Ja,
op
precies.
dezelfde
Dus
hoogte.
het inladen van al bestaande content, zeg maar,
Ik
en
heb
om
nu
dat
als ik
verrijken
voor mezelf
met
kijk,
iets van een
dan
training
zie ik
of iets in die hoek, zeg maar.
Ja,
redelijk
ja,
Dat je
want
mensen
het
met
is eigenlijk-
met een digital twin eigenlijk
Dus
kan opleiden,
voor mij
zeg
is
maar.
het beeld
Ja, oké.
Ja,
realistisch.
dat ze dus niet de productielijn stop hoeven te zetten om
Ja,
mensen
en
te
voor mij
trainen,
is
maar
dat
dat
ook
we
een
gewoon de
beetje-
lijn
ik zit-
naar een
ik zit
trainingsruimte
nu,
kunnen halen en mensen handelingen kunnen laten doen.
Ja, ik hang er een beetje
Ja,
tussenin.
we hebben ook al een aantal talks gehad in diezelfde lijn. Een beetje wat VR kan betekenen voor het trainen van mensen. Gisteren bijvoorbeeld Jay Maloney van KLM. En KLM doet ook al heel veel training in VR. Bijvoorbeeld cockpit training doen ze voor de grondprocedures, alles al in VR. Dus er zijn wel hele goede use cases die nu al echt in gebruik zijn in het bedrijfsleven, zeg maar. Met behulp van VR. Er zijn heel veel mogelijkheden. Ik weet even het programma niet uit mijn hoofd. Het staat binnen, als je net de hal binnen gaat, staat er een grote poster met de talks die vandaag zijn. Er is eentje van Microsoft en eentje van Enexis. Ik weet alleen niet even precies uit mijn hoofd waar het over gaat.
Kun je gewoon op de hoogte van het
dat gaan we zien.
We gaan het zien.
Ja, zijn we met veel mensen vandaag?
Als je dan zelf op een stoel zit, dan
5, 6,
kun je heel relaxed.
Volgens mij zijn we vandaag met de meeste mensen in VR.
Ja.
nee,
We hebben tot nu toe ongeveer 25 mensen gehad, elk event wat we draaiden, maar nu is het ongeveer rond de 30 volgens mij, dus net iets meer dan vorige dagen. En we hebben ook een livestream aanstaan, Tim die is aan het livestreamen, dus er kunnen ook mensen meekijken die geen VR-bril hebben. Dus als je nog andere mensen hebt die mee willen kijken, dan kan je het linkje delen wat ook in de mail staat.
Ja, ik zag Tim net ook al helemaal in de lucht, ja, dat ik denk, wat doet hij daar? Maar,
Ja, klopt. Hij heeft een speciale camera, dus die kan dan
van
hoger af even wat dingen bekijken.
dus alles wat Tim zegt, zien de mensen thuis ook.
gewoon in de zaal zit.
Yes, dus de mensen zonder VR-bril kunnen ook meekijken.
Kijkt een beetje zo.
Hey, Stefan, misschien even handig.
met de URL,
Stefan.
Ja hoor. Ja.
Misschien even handig om iedereen meteen door te verwijzen, want het is heel druk als je hier binnenkomt en iedereen blijft hier staan
Je
praten.
luistert naar de groep, naar onze groep.
Jullie mogen alvast naar de hal gaan. We komen jullie zo ophalen als de presentatie begint.
Hey Robert, kijkt zo.
Oké.
Ja, dat is het echte. Dat heb je met een Zoom-meeting heb je dat nooit. Dan zit je
Goedemiddag mensen. Jullie mogen alvast naar binnen gaan. Dan komen mensen hier wat rustiger binnen.
Iedereen die hier binnenkomt, die komt meteen in een drukte van je welste. Stop. Binnen en dan kan je verder praten. En dan komt jullie zo wel eventjes gedag zeggen. Dus met het joystickje kan je...
Hoe kom ik? Ja, hi.
Ja.
Maar de eventlocatie is heel mooi, hè? Mooi gemaakt.
Nou, dankjewel. Ik ga eens even in de kaart in de... Ja, hi Omar.
Ja, elkaar weer gevonden.
Nou, Inge is er ook.
Hi.
Je moet wel zeggen waar je naartoe gaat, anders dan gaat het, dan kun je elkaar zo kwijtraken.
Tenminste.
Ja, ik had alleen net wel, want ik het idee had ik van iemand anders zo'n ding zag. Waar, als ik nu wijs, kun je dat dan zien?
Ja,
waar
je ziet af en toe nog dat mensen nog wat lengte-sync-problemen hebben. Of ze zitten echt thuis, of...
Zie je je handen gewoon?
Zitten is ook fijn. Roelof, ben je echt zo groot? Ja.
Ja, ik heb
Robert,
zo
maar als je
geleerd. Ja, ik zou even de vloer aan raken.
Ja, oh, ja.
Ja, sorry.
Wel fijn
een
dat
beetje
je
90, maar...
met je middelvinger
dit is echt mijn
pak je
vloer.
de trigger.
Ja,
En
het is echt zo.
als je...
Wauw, ik
Ik
kan
vind
daar
het wel een beetje warm voor
even
VR
kijken.
vandaag, maar...
nou hè, foto regelen.
De triggervinger, dan gaat de triggervinger.
Volgens mij moeten we wel naar de zaal, denk ik.
Ja, je kunt,
theater? Is dat
Ja,
je
ja,
kunt
dat
een beetje zo...
alles goed.
Kijk, goed weer te zien.
Een dingetje, misschien voor jou.
Het is een beetje een truc.
Ik heb 3 slides voor
mooie verhalen aan hoor.
ingedrukt.
Ja,
met
dat
duim
is
op
vandaag.
De eerste even met z'n tweeën.
Dan
Van
krijg
gisteren
je
wel
een
even een leuke verhaal gisteren.
Eerst de dame natuurlijk en daarna de heer.
Oh, dat is wel lastig hoor.
Dan moet je misschien even
Ja, van de discussie achteraf. Dat werkt prima zo.
Ik heb ze niet al
Maar
snel even doorgedaan. Heel goed.
De punten draaien ook
mooie setting.
draaien om top.
dat is wel toi zou ze maar zeggen.
Dat ziet er
Ik
heel
ken
anders
niet.
uit.
Ja, dat was
Ik spring al van het podium
Zo dadelijk even.
Daar is de klok. Dan gaan we over een minuut of 15 beginnen.
Dat gaat goed.
Oh ja.
Zo even naar binnen.
Hey, super. Doen we dat?
Maar we kunnen zo de zaal in, denk ik. Als ik de tijd
Because I saw you looking at me
ga even
flirty.
ietsje hoger.
Hey.
Should we go to the theater?
We gaan 5 minuten beginnen in het theater. Dat is hier zo aan de
Ik zag
rechterkant.
het al. Ja, helemaal goed.
Yes?
Yes.
Veel plezier.
Ja, dankjewel.
Ja.
Ja, nee, zeker. Heel netjes. Nou, maar dus die kant op.
Naar dat theater.
Dag Omar.
Ja. Goeiedag.
Oh. Ik sta nu bij. Ik heb vanmorgen heb ik de dag van gisteren teruggekeken en toen zag ik jou.
Ik heb de stoel thuis in sync gezet met de stoel hier.
Dat terrasje
Dat is mooi. Ik weet niet of je het door had gekregen, maar
Nee,
Tim die aan het livestreamen is, die heeft jouw opmerking meteen verwerkt de volgende dag. Dus we hebben nu picture in picture. Oh, dat is cool. Nou, dat zal ik gelijk morgen hopen.
Nee, eerst
Oh, je ziet dat Tim aan dat Tim de recorder is, zeg maar nu.
Ja, dat is wel echt hè.
Het is allemaal nog even...
Ja, ik zie
Cool,
even de
man.
sprekersbrief. Ik heb net geleerd van dat je heel
dankjewel,
even je camera aan moet zetten.
Ik zal even kijken, een momentje.
Ja,
Er is geen knop, het is gewoon
I
touch.
think we are sitting.
Zeker gewoon aan de zijkant.
Welke zijkant? Er zitten verschillende. Ik bedoel.
Ik weet niet wat er met die
Nee,
persoon
gewoon waar de band van de camera is, van de hoofdband zit.
So weird.
Oké, en dan 1 keer tappen of?
2 keer tappen, dan gaat hij in 1 keer.
No, I'm on my bed.
2 keer tapt op de zijkant, ja, dan gaat hij door. Wordt hij doorkijken.
Mijn manager, oh, je krijgt een goed
En er zit ook de aan-uitknop.
Vond je leuk?
Nee, maar het is geen knop, het is gewoon er zit een gevoelige sensor.
We zitten vlak bij elkaar, ja. Ik heb geen koffie, niks bij me voor je.
Nee.
I'm scratching
Weet je wat wel fijn is? In zo'n collegezaal heb je altijd ruzie met je benen, maar hier schop je gewoon door die stoel voor je.
Ja, je moet opletten dat je niet tegen iets in je kamer of de plek waar je zit.
Ja.
Als je in huis nu een soort plek moet hebben.
Ja, hallo.
Ik zat een beetje
Ik had vanmorgen nog een meeting met jouw collega, volgens mij. Ramon.
Ja, dat heb ik ook gedaan. Mijn stoel staat alleen nu tussen 2 stoelen in, lijkt het nu. Ik zit een beetje op de leuning, geloof ik.
Dat zou zomaar kunnen, wat...
Ja, oh ja, dat heb ik ook wel een beetje.
Wat was de functie precies?
Van Enexis.
Hij is van...
Wat zeg je?
Ik ben niet van Enexis.
Alle van die melk... de melkproduct... nutrition afdeling is die wel, volgens mij.
Ja, oké. Ik denk dat hij dan in Zwolle op de fabriek zit.
Robin Vroeg, ja, sorry. Ja.
Ja, want ik zit in Olst. Dus dat
van
ligt
jou
wel
die-
in de buurt
Oh,
van Zwolle.
ja.
Maar we hebben 2 fabrieken. Eén in Olst en één in Zwolle.
Ja,
Ja, nog wel meer dan...
Een collega van jou doet ook
Ja,
maar,
in Olst heb ik ook contact met jullie gehad.
Van de hubleiding.
Dat kan,
Alleen wie
dat
dat
kan.
was, dat weet ik even niet meer. Dat was eerst via associëren. Dat ging
Ja,
om
dat kan wel.
maintenance-oplossingen.
Ik weet nog niet precies.
Ja, dat kan wel. Ik denk, want wij hebben... Nee,
I think we will going to start in 2 minutes. So Tim, maybe you can get all the people inside.
Dus door corona is dat
And we can start in 2 minutes.
We gaan nu wel weer kijken of we dat verder kunnen oppakken.
Most of the people already are sitting, I see. So welcome.
Ja, maar dat is wel grappig. We hebben een...
Hij is wel
We
een
hebben
beetje
toegepast
klein.
over een demonstrator waar we mee bezig zijn en die is niet
Hij heeft
klaar.
die
was goed
Hij
kijken.
kan nu weer gewoon deze week is
Gekeken, beschikbaar stellen voor bedrijven om gewoon te testen en heel veel
Helemaal goed.
Niet mij nou. Nee. Oh nee. Hè?
Nog even een introotje?
Oké, ja.
Ja, dan ga ik weer naar binnen.
Nee, ik kan het niet vinden in de klas, maar ik zal wel even nakijken.
Zo.
Wat is jouw functie binnen Abbott?
Business Excellence Engineer.
Oké,
Dus
dat is een,
dat is ja, een moeilijke naam.
heel breed begrip ook, volgens mij.
Ik hoor Suzanne wel, maar volgens mij hoort ze mij.
Lucas,
Ja?
kun je ooit van het podium komen?
Ja.
Ja.
Niet.
Ja.
Ja, ik ga jou al...
moet ook
ik
even
heb
de
jouw naam al
microfoon.
gehoord.
Oh, ja.
Het is hier wel heel lang buiten.
Volgens mij is die eerste spreker wat verlaat.
Het is hier heel luid
van Microsoft. Dus ik had... Maar je bent ook geen mensen van...
toch heel duidelijk.
Ik heb ze
Ja, nou bijna. Ja, maar dat is een lang verhaal. Dat is heel lang.
Ik zal ze wel even vragen.
Wil je ook zien?
Ja, die zit op
zo
balkon.
begint, maar
onder de
ik
knop.
ga straks nog even spreken.
Moet ik zeggen,
oké,
vragen
leuk.
als eerste?
Ja,
waar zit jij nu?
Ja, sorry, doe maar. Ja, is goed.
Waar zit jij nu? In Almelo of?
Ja, ik zit gewoon thuis.
Oh, oké. Ja, ik zit bij Dutch Virtual.
Ach, wat lachen, daar was ik in Almelo gewoon.
Ja.
Dan lag ik nu door de muur heen.
Ja, nee, daar was ik, dinsdag was ik daar.
Ja, oké. Oh, toen heb je het vanaf daar gedaan.
Heb ik het vanaf daar gedaan, ja. Toen was ik onderweg en thuis was wat drukjes met vrienden en weet ik veel wat die er allemaal waren. Dus denk ik, ja, dan ga ik gewoon lekker naar rust, want ik kom er ook wel vaker. Dus op die manier.
Oké, ja. Ja, nou, leuk plekje. Ja, ik
Even
zit
kijken, waar is...
nu op die lege verdieping.
Ja, die lege verdieping in een apart hokje.
Hoi,
Ja.
hoi, goed je weer te zien. Tweede keer in VR.
Grappig, ja, je naam was al wel gevallen, maar niet dat...
je bent er ook.
Toen ik zei dat ik bij Dynoband werkte, toen viel jouw naam meteen. Ja, maar niet dat... maar ik wist niet dat je er nu bij zou zijn.
Ja, nee, ik was dinsdag ingeschreven, maar vandaag boeien we naar dit beeld eigenlijk. Met name het CMO innovatie waar ik nu heel actief in ben.
die daar links
Dus op die manier wou ik zeker dit seizoen gewoon.
Die heeft de camera eigenlijk in de hand. En die neemt dan eigenlijk op wat je
Ja,
ziet.
ik ook. Ja,
dat zie je
het
dan
is
wel.
sowieso gaaf dat dit kan.
Ja,
Het is zo toegankelijk. Het is zo easy om
Avatar is maar tot zo is maar
dit is mijn eerste. Het is eigenlijk mijn tweede VR-bril.
Kijk, eigenlijk doet je rest van je lijf niks met de emotie die je toont. Die toon je in je gezicht van die avatars. Dat vind ik echt. Dus avatars maar deze maat of toetjes. Ja, een torso, maar geen lijf.
Ik moet eerlijk zeggen, of je bent heel erg veranderd of je lijkt er niet op.
Die zien echt wat jij nu niet ook ziet.
En dat
Alleen zij zien er
nooit weten.
zitten er niet in, zeg maar, zoals wij wel.
Ja, denk ik.
Maar misschien moet ik wel een keer een andere afspraak maken.
Nou, ik heb geprobeerd vanaf een foto, zeg maar, in te laten. En door de kamer vliegen te hacken. En op basis daarvan de avatar te gaan bepalen. In plaats van kiezen.
Ja, als je je controllers gebruikt, die je erin krijgt, in je controllers. Kijk, je kan met je controllers als je erin knijpt, maar volgens mij zit hetzelfde haar. Dit is de trigger
Ik heb alleen bewust al die kleurtjes gegeven dat ik het tegelijkertijd heb. Maar goed.
En dan kan je dus ook, als je dat doet, kan je dus ook dit signaal maken door alleen de ene trigger in te drukken.
Welke sessie lijkt jou het meest interessant dan? Die van Microsoft of die andere?
Ja, die hoef je niet te gebruiken. Je hebt ook een Oculus.
Ja, die van Microsoft
je duim naar beneden, als je
die andere,
ik ben ook wel geïnteresseerd sowieso in. En je laat dan je duim gewoon naar beneden zakken, dan ziet de Oculus.
Ik heb
dat door die cirkel die eromheen.
Oké. Tim, die hangt boven. Let's start. Welcome everybody to the third day of the Industrial Reality 2021. It's an initiative of the Industrial Reality Hub. The Industrial Reality Hub is within the Industrial Reality Hub there are 17 members and knowledge partners working together on virtual reality, augmented reality. And together we organize once a year an event. We exist 3 years. This is our third event and it's also the third day of this event this year. So I'm very pleased to welcome you all. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Lucas Harbus. I work at OV Software and I'll be your host today. So if you have any questions or remarks, or I'll be here and I'll lead the panel discussion and an introduction. The program we've got for today is we wanted to start with Joris Haverkort from Microsoft, but he has got a little delay. So I just asked Carlijn and Tim to step up earlier and to start with the presentation. They're going to tell the experience from Enexis. And so they will give a presentation. And after the presentation, there's some room for some questions. Then Joris will come on the stage. There will be also room for some questions. And then we have a panel discussion also here on stage. So you can have the interaction with as well as Microsoft as Enexis. After the panel discussion, we will leave this stage and go back to the lobby or outside, and we can have one-on-one discussions or talk together. But let's start with the first session. So please, Carlijn and Tim, can you join me on the stage? I will have a little introduction, but you can do it yourself much better. So on stage, you see the avatars, but in real life, Carlijn and Tim, these are your pictures. And you're going to tell something about XR on site. Let's move. Carlijn, your role. And yes, also Tim, your role. But I will get back to Bart, who will turn on the presentation from yourself on screen. Bart, I think, or I will try to do it.
I can try and do it as well. I don't think Bart is present at the moment.
Presentation, and then I'm going to this one. Carlijn? Yes.
Yeah, there it's up.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Thank you all for being here.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sure, man.
Let me first start with an introduction. My name is Carlijn Overes and I work as an innovation expert at Enexis. And what that basically means is that I research innovations to see whether they can help us to with the challenges we're dealing with. Tim, can you quickly introduce yourself and then we'll start with the presentation?
Well, I'm Tim van Maarsveen. I'm a privacy officer at Enexis, in charge of everything dealing with privacy, and especially now here with innovation within Enexis. That's it in short.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Before we start telling you something about the experience we had on XR on site and what we learned and what else we want to tell you, quick question. Can you raise your hand if you don't know Enexis or you don't have any idea what we're doing? I think I see a hand over there. Everybody else familiar with Enexis? Knows what we're doing? Oh, nice. This is going to be an easy one for us, right? Because I don't see any hands rising up. So I guess I can go quickly through the next slides. Because, oh, did I hear somebody wanting to ask something, say something? No, okay. Let me go to the next one. Because that is where I wanted to explain to you what we do as a grid operator, as a distribution system operator. We maintain the electricity and gas distribution grid. So what we do is we deliver light and warmth to people in the way of energy. And where you can see it over here, so everything in pink, this is where Enexis comes into place. So you can see we go from transformer stations, the electricity boxes you see around the corner, and also the meter box in your home. So you can imagine that we're delivering electricity and energy to hospitals, to homes, well, a lot of things you can imagine. You couldn't have charged your Oculus Quest without the electricity we're providing, for example. So it would have been hard to be here altogether without the electricity grid. And here beneath, you already see a little green line, and that's the delivering back. That's something that has come with the solar panels. And that will be my next question. Who of you does have solar panels at their house? Please raise your hand. Yes, there I see more hands coming. Yes, nice, okay. That's good to know. Because at Enexis, we see our world changing, for example, because of these solar panels. Where we were used, you see there way in the back, you see the world of yesterday where the energy delivery was stable and where, for example, coal, they were easily to predict. And now we see here, we see more and more solar panels coming in. And we see that the electricity grid and the predictability of the energy delivery, it's getting more various because of the weather. For example, also the wind that you see over here in the world of tomorrow, there will come only more sustainable energy, which has its impact on the grid and which has its impact on the work we have to do to keep sure that you will have your energy and that we can keep delivering energy where you need light and warmth. At the same time, I don't know if people of you heard, there's this scarcity in technical people that actually work. So with a task to keep the energy grid balanced, but also the scarcity in people to work from a technical point of view. That's actually quite a challenge we have out there. And we are doing a lot with this challenge, a lot of good things. But one of them is also seeing how we can be innovative and to research how we can be innovative. And therefore, one of the research projects we are doing is to see what these kinds of technologies can bring us. So what can augmented reality bring us? What can virtual reality bring us? This is all still, it's very important to say, in a research stage. So we don't have anything implemented yet, but we are researching this to see whether the potential is good for us to use this. And then you can think about people, for example, working in the field, be able to call their colleague with more experience and ask them, can you help me? I am in front of this asset. I have no idea what to do. Can you help me with this because you are more experienced? Also, for example, with training, when we have some assets that are very expensive, you can also try to first train in virtual reality and then later on work on the real asset. And of course, you are here in this magnificent room, this event room. We also did some a pilot about how can it help us to start working together in a virtual environment. So those are kind of things that we are trying to look at, that we are researching to see whether there's potential and whether these technologies can help us. And whether we can look brightly into the future with these smart glasses on our head. Because if something goes wrong, and I understand there are people in this room that aren't Dutch, so I will translate for you. But if there would be a longer blackout in the Netherlands, that would be a disaster, and we wouldn't be prepared. So, for example, if something would go wrong, the hospitals wouldn't have electricity anymore. And well, for us as a critical infrastructure, that wouldn't be nice and wouldn't be the case. And that's also why I told you that we are piloting these kinds of research. We are testing it, not using it in the field yet, because, and now I'm giving the stage to you, Tim.
Yeah, well, that's because of security. As you could see, we're a grid operator. That means we're in charge of one of the vital infrastructures within the Netherlands. And Well, you don't want that to go out, right? So if the power drops, hospitals don't have any power, your house doesn't have any power, nobody has any power, and it's going to lead to real trouble. So when you think of security, there are actually a few basic pillars. That's firstly, that's confidentiality. Secondly, that's integrity. And the third one is availability. So think of it like we have over here, we have Peach our Castle with Mario in front. So it has a treasure, right? And we want to make sure, they want to make sure that the treasure is confidential, that nobody knows where it is, so they can't access it or steal any money from it. That's the integrity part. And the other part is you want to make sure that Peach can actually get to the treasure so she can build her kingdom. Well, our treasure nowadays is information, and information regarding our grid. We don't want to have to get that in other people's hands. Think of it like this. Normally, well, back in the days of warfare, for example, they would just, for example, bomb a power station. Nowadays, they don't do that anymore. They try to hack power grids to take them offline or take control of them. So we want to stop that. And for now, the issue with virtual reality or extended reality is that it's an emerging technology. Security is for now not one of the most vital points yet. It's not up to par for what a grid operator needs. As I said, we're a vital infrastructure, so it has to be up to par. It has to be state of the art. Think, for example, we're having a virtual meeting with board members about strategies about where we're going to expand or what we're going to do next in the power system, power grid, and someone hacks into it, or someone. Let's think of Caroline as a board member, and her account gets hacked. So Caroline, her avatar pops in, someone has an audio tape of her. And for all we know, all the board members know, she's the board member, she's the CEO. And that could be a problem if she tells, or if they tell her about any strategic information. That is something that can definitely never happen. I think the other use case we spoke about something that's, well, we're exploring. Think of it like one of these. Let me go back to the slide, right? So we have, all right. So you have the high voltage transformer, the high voltage grid, and the high voltage stations. So when a mechanic works there, it would be great if a mechanic could do that on its own and have some support from longer distance through AR. They have their glasses on, they get support, some extra elements to help them do their job. You don't want anybody else seeing that feed or having access to that feed. If, for example, state actors from Iran, China, North Korea, name them, US, if they get access to that feed and they know how our power grid works and where there are weaknesses, they could seriously take advantage of that. And that is something, again, we can never let happen. I'm going to take it back to the original slide. And those are some of the security issues we're dealing with these types of projects.
Yeah, and it makes it hard for us as well, because I had another question for you. I don't know the level of experience you all have in virtual reality, how much you know, but can you raise your hand if you know the example of it's a breathtaking video of a mother who has lost her child, her 4-year-old child, and she can meet her child again in virtual reality, so that she can start mourning, and she can actually start the grieving process. Are there people here in this room familiar with the video and the technique I'm talking about? Can you please raise your hand? 1 hand, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. For the other people, great video to watch online to see how far this technology is already gone, already emerged, because this mother really thinks she has her own child in front of her. And that's exactly what Tim is saying. They just had some data of a 4-year-old child, and they were able to, well, remake her in virtual reality, so to say. But for example, look back at the challenge I told you about. So we want to keep providing you with electricity and with gas, and make sure you get your energy. We want to do that in a good way. We're researching innovation, and then we have this bottleneck of security. Because it's important that we overcome this one, otherwise there's a risk. For example, we can overcome this risk. We can manage out all the security, make sure it's like completely safe. Then Tim, there is another problem, right? Something else we need to take impact.
Next to security, we also have some. Someone have a question? So someone moving? No, never mind. All right. So, maybe you've heard about the news. I think it was Friday or something. Mark Zuckerberg said in a podcast, or I'm not sure exactly what it was, but that the future of virtual reality depends on advertising. And albeit advertising is not that much of an issue, Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, they make advertisements based on personal data. So they collect your personal data, they create a profile of who you are, so the best target you with certain advertisements. And that's an issue, especially when you're dealing with virtual reality data. For example, headsets like these, they collect data regarding how you move your head, how you move around. And they could even lead to having a profile of how somebody walks, or whether they have perhaps a limp or whatnot. And so for a personal information, so for a general person, that's not much of an issue. However, when you're dealing with employees, for example, our employees, and they use this technology, we as a company are responsible for their privacy, responsible for dealing with for protecting their personal information, making sure it's not being used for advertisements or targeting. And well, that's pretty hard in a emerging technology to be able to protect them. And that's something we really want to do. So before we can even use technology like this on a grand scale or even on a small scale, we need to make sure the privacy of our employees is protected. And if we don't, we could be fined, we could have court issues, we would be in serious trouble. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen. And that's just our employees. But of course, we have a lot of customers. Enexis has about 2.4 million customers, if I recall correctly. Let's say one of these mechanics with his glasses walks into their house, fixes their electrical systems and their smart meter, for example. And well, the people in the house have a lover spat. Well, normally that would be embarrassing in front of a mechanic, of course, but at least it wouldn't be recorded. But now with these glasses, it's recorded. That personal information of our customers, we are in charge of it. We are responsible for it, and have to make sure that that doesn't leak or doesn't fall in the wrong hands. And well, that is also one of the struggles we have currently with extended reality technology.
And well, if we then look, if we then look into the future and you see a smile here, a bright smile on my face, then it makes it hard for us because we want to do research into these technologies, but we always put safety first in everything we do. So the cases Tim just described, we're not going to let that happen. Like it's out of the question that anything of these things Tim described would happen. So what we're now doing is we can only do small research, small pilots in which we have no risk, in which nothing of this can happen. But it makes it hard for us because it makes it hard to research the whole potential, and that's why we're here, because we are researching this, we are trying to see the potential, and we can make up some use cases in which this could help in the field and with our work. But we also wanted to take this stage to be with people like you, with the experts, with the enthusiasts, which are probably so much into the technology, and just give this point of view as well, and to come to talk to you about this, because for a company like ours, it makes it difficult, and that's what we just wanted to bring up, give you another perspective, give you another idea. Because, for example, with the security part, the last thing we want, and the thing we are not going to let happen, is that a hospital cannot run because of the electricity grid that wasn't secured. That wasn't secured good. So I think
If it
we are
goes
already out of our
wrong,
career.
yeah, I think so. So really, if it has 100% secure, 100% privacy proof, because if, well, shit, pardon my French, happens, it has a serious impact on the lives of general people, or even could lead to accidents or personal damage. So we really don't want that to happen. So it has to be 100% secure. But I do wonder if anyone here has any reasons how to even, or any, no, not reasons, any ways how to make extended reality even more secure.
If anyone wants to bring inputs on this question, there are here 2 microphones. So you can stand up, walk in front of them, and if you stand with a microphone, there will be a red sign be, and you can get your suggestion or respond to the question from Tim.
So,
Piet, please.
Can you hear me?
A little bit
Or,
Oh, we can hear
to
you.
the microphone.
Closer, a bit closer to the mic.
When
so
there will be a
maybe
red
I'm
sign on the
on the
microphone,
sitting.
then you can talk.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah, now we can hear you.
yeah, I'm sitting on a chair. So I'm sitting now and standing behind the microphone. Now, one of my name is Piet Kiekebos, and I'm several years following VR. And security is one of the most exciting things. So how do you protect your database? So I can imagine when you are working with a HoloLens or with Quest with pass-through, you look at the sidewalk and you see all the cabling from Enexis. And I think that's a secure problem.
So exactly, you're right. That's correct. So that's why we only did pilots without actually any real data to make sure that data doesn't get in the wrong hands. That's one of the issues we truly have. Correct.
Yeah. And the hospital blackout, that's the same problem. But it's not only the electricity, it's also when you have a glass, a fiber is broken, the hospital is also has a big problem. So there are a lot of problems to solve. And when you are exactly know where all the cables are in the ground, then you have a big issue, I think,
Yeah,
in the security way.
That's why we're here. So we're researching this potential, but we want to tell you enthusiasts also about what goes wrong if the security goes wrong and a company like ours implements this technology on a bigger scale or in the wrong working process.
Even this virtual environment, we have all avatars like mostly the same. So there are maybe 100 or 1,000 different combinations. So I can reproduce your avatar exactly on my headset. And what Tim described, so with the same voice, I didn't know who is the real person. So we need a kind of ID, a virtual ID. So I know you are Tim, and Carlijn.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That would be really.
Did you investigate that?
Yeah, there are some papers about that. So there are people investigating that in the field. Currently, we're not so far in our research that we did research practical ways to apply this, but we know of that there is research available and that people did research this. So we are aware, but we're not so far in our research yet, or so far to research it any further.
Yeah. Okay. I have hundreds of pros and hundreds of cons in security, and so you must think about it.
Well, we'll be happy if you share them with us. Like, if we can learn something from you, then
yeah, we can talk.
Thanks for. My name is Ronald, and thanks for a great presentation. But some of the issues you described are actually, to me, are quite traditional, and we, in some sort of way, we have had these issues already for years. We have these issues around devices and access to devices with the smartphone as well, and the privacy protection on data provided and data, let's say, created was there on the smartphone as well. So some of the things are, we all here, probably most of us have a consumer Oculus Quest 2. So we have this issue already now with respect to data, and with privacy. So I think we need to not think from the past and try to solve stuff which we were known to. This is not a digital transformation, but it's a digital thing. It's not a digitized analog version. But we need to think this from a sort of first principle approach instead of trying to digitize the analog way. And I think that in that way we have maybe already a solution to but we don't see them yet.
Exactly, but that's here and trying to address exactly what you're saying. So if we hope to, if we put this right now in a group like this, maybe it helps to accelerate the solution. What you're talking about, and that it doesn't have to go the traditional way, but maybe in some other way. So yeah, that sounds great. I don't know if you want to add something.
No, I agree. No, you're right. These are technological issues, of course, and VR does not exactly specifically add more risk. However, the way we're thinking of perhaps being able to use it in the future does bring these risks. For example, the mechanic in the station. I mean, he can bring his phone, but he can't bring his phone. But it's still the information regarding the station would not be shared. And especially nowadays with VR, we have a few. You said Oculus Quest, right? Standalone headsets. I think there's Oculus. I think HTC did something called like a Vive, and that's about it. So we need more.
The Pico. The Pico is there as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. And so we need more platforms, hardware, software, more developers, more people interacting with it, more people working with it to make it more secure.
Yep.
So I'm really looking forward to what the future brings.
Yeah, me too. At least it's easier to maneuver and it's cheaper to go to events. And I think it's actually even in some cases better than the real event. So thanks for sharing the information of Enexis. Thanks, thanks, Colin.
Okay. Well, thank you. Is there anyone else who can give a response to this open question? Because it's a very interesting one. You're here sitting.
Right?
What did you say, Colin?
Oh yeah, well, I see someone going.
Yeah, good. Please. When you.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. First of all, that is not like a new question, new issue, and for the cyber world in the current era, I don't think we can even keep our security 100% secure. So instead of keep it 100% secure, usually we need to think, okay, for the new technology, no matter to organize a Zoom meeting or no matter organize a virtual reality event. So what is the environment we use this solution? So as long as you want to be a member to join in this virtual or cyber meeting, you subscribe it, and then you have to fill in different information in it. But on the other hand, for example, if it's a consumer-wise, usually the most people or company they do is you have to agree with a certain privacy agreements. And as long as you agree about it, then you already admitted your information will be saved in a storage, for example, cloud storage somewhere else in the server. But then in this case, the person who developed has to make sure the server will not be hacked and the information will be not leaked. That's one thing. And the second thing is about the company environment. For example, if this solution or even normally the online meeting can be used for company training. And for the employee, usually they have their company information, the email address. Usually the private information will be not leaked, even that is they are joining the VR meeting or something. So I don't think that this will be a main concern. And I think instead of like solving this issue, I think it's more open question like how to let the people to know, to be aware of it. Nowadays, there's no 100% of way to make it 100% secure. And let people to agree on their privacy and should be not using in an illegal way. But on the other hand, they should be aware nothing is, how to say, we don't have a privacy. That's it. And technology-wise, is there's always a lot of solutions to make our private information more secure, company information more secure, and also the like law firm, they offer different legal advices on how to solving this issue if there's a problem coming. So I think eventually the technology will develop, make us more satisfied and more feel secure. But still, this issue, I don't think can be really solved.
Good.
100%.
Could you stand up to the microphone a little bit more? Because sometimes your voice is very low. Yes.
You have to be in the
Thank
box.
you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, in short, first of all, I don't think this issue can be 100% solved. Nobody has in the cyber world, and then privacy is there's no privacy. And second, it depends on what environment we're going to use the solution. Even organize a Zoom meeting or virtual reality meeting, and still, it depends on what environment you use it. And second, the depends on the different parties. Who is the user? Who is the developer? And how the solution they're gonna give to keep everything secure. For example, our information will be stored on the. So in this case, the person who developed this maybe taking the responsibility to make everything secure. But still, I think it's really difficult to solve 100%. To be honest. So let the people be aware of it, and then they have to accept on the general term and agreement. So your privacy will be there and everyone knows who you are. So that's what I want to share with everyone. That's all.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good.
Yeah, no problem.
Great. So I think it was a very interesting presentation, but most of it, you have a question to the audience. A part of the audience is here in the room, but also part of the audience is here within a live stream. So I would suggest that we go on to the next presentation. Then with the panel discussion, part can bring up the questions or the remarks who are stated at chat functionality with the other participants, and maybe they will get some new suggestions inside. Yes? Right. I don't have an applause button, but for Carlijn and Tim, please, I will have a little applause for the presentation. Thank you very much. I'd like you to take a seat back, and I will call you to the stage when we did listen after the next presentation. Okay. Then already in the room with new technologies, I'd like to call up Joris Haverkort. Joris, can you get to the stage?
Yeah, hi, nice to meet you. Good day.
Hi.
Hi.
Wait, thought I could get you into the screen, but I'll do something else.
Wacht even. No. Laat me maar even. Je hebt de verkeerde, maar dat geeft niet. Even kijken. Dat is deze.
Really?
Ja.
And yours, you're creative because you're now in the room with the 4G way of working. So maybe they get some. Yes, great. So we're going to listen to them, but when this after is fading out a little bit and the connection is maybe a little weak, but let's give it a try. Yes?
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's a good learning never to connect on a Microsoft corporate network on a Facebook device. So that's something I learned today.
That's the one. It's a great introduction. So I think I'm going to start your slide deck and I'm going to sit down. Good luck, Jos.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So thank you everyone for having me here in a virtual and in an online and actually in a physical room. I'm standing in the holosuite of the Microsoft Schiphol office. So I'm in a holosuite in a virtual reality stage doing a presentation on mixed reality and augmented reality. So I'm getting a little bit confused, but hopefully you can follow my story even though it's on 4G. If you really cannot hear me, then I don't know, start waving your hands. But I'll see if you can follow my presentation in this way. So my name is Joris Haverkort. Within Microsoft, I'm responsible for managing the Microsoft Technology Center. So we have around 48 technology centers all around the world, and we're one of the largest ones in Europe, at least in Amsterdam. And as my wife likes to say, I get paid professionally to play with gadgets. I think in a lot of ways she's right. I get to play with things like HoloLens, but most importantly, I talk with customers about the use of technology. And all different types of technology, everything ranging from drones to AI to modern workplace to business applications and all the things that Microsoft does. And I want to share some of the insights on the future and some of the technologies that we see. And obviously, I can imagine that people come here a lot in our experience center and they say, well, show me, what is really new, what is on the forefront of technology. And the reality mostly is that, one, we don't really understand the future, that we don't really know what's right around the corner, but also that just the adoption curve itself, we are already way above where we are with technology. It's more that companies even have to start catching up with the technology that's out there to begin with. So let's talk about the future today. So when we talk about the future, the reality is we really often get the future wrong. And there are a couple of reasons for that. If you look at how many people see the future, people see robots and skyscrapers and flying cars and all types of very far out there technology. But the reality is this is never really the future that we think it is. If you look at some term movies, and I don't mean termination of the human race, well maybe, but if you look at some of the technologies, they would have predicted, all of this tech, the walking around robots would have been here in 2021 already. And the reality is it isn't the case. And then the question comes, why is that? Why do we get the future wrong so much? And I think the reality is, I said, we really get the future. We don't have robots walking our kids. We don't have any of those fancy hoverboards, and we also don't have flying cars. What we do have, by the way, which is kind of cool, I saw those self-lacing sneakers from Nike on a gadget blog quite recently. So that's the one thing from all of this that we actually did get. And the question then becomes, why is that? And I think there are two reasons why we get the future wrong that much. So reason one, and this is a picture from Times Square around the year 1900. If you look around Times Square, you see a lot of people there, and you see some horses and carriages and an incidental car over there. But for the rest, there's nothing else than cars and horse and carriages there. And then if you look 10 years later, the streets are filled with cars. There's cars everywhere. And the reality, mostly when it comes to technology, is we always overestimate the amount of change that will happen in the next 2. But we underestimate the amount of change in the next 10. If you just take the example of an iPhone, who still remembers where when the last iPhone came out? Do you know in the front, maybe here, when the iPhone came out?
The last one is this year.
No, the first one. When the first iPhone.
Was 2004.
Yeah, I think it was 2006, but you're pretty close. So it's It's not that long ago, but the world has changed. We're paying with mobile phones right now. So we overestimate what that technology can do in 2, but we underestimate the amount of change that it brings in the next 10. The second way we get the future wrong a lot is that the most profound technologies, the ones that really make an impact, are the ones that weave themselves into the fabric of everyday life. And it's a difficult sentence maybe for English speaking, but they really weave themselves into the fabric of everyday life until they become indistinguishable from it. And if you just take the mobile phone as an example, when it was still a brick that you had carried around, we didn't see mass adoption. And with all due respect, because you know a lot more about VR than I do, but a headset like this, it will never hit mass market because it's too impractical, because it doesn't weave itself into the fabric of everyday life. It doesn't mean there are great business applications for it, don't get me wrong, and there are even fun consumer applications, but this is not going to replace the mobile phone just yet, because it's too impractical. It doesn't weave itself into the fabric of everyday life. So if we then think about the future and we ask, you know, what is the future then really about? Then there are 3 trends that we can look at. Obviously, we can look at some social trends, like climate change. But when we look at technology trends, there are 3 big technology trends that will shape the future. One of them, obviously, being artificial intelligence, which will have a massive impact on jobs, on how we automate things, and on a lot of sectors of work and technology. The other one, obviously, being quantum computing, if you're familiar with it. It will solve some of the world's biggest problems, like medicine or climate change or food production. Being able to do calculations like break 284-bit encryption, which the fastest computer now takes, I think, 1 billion years to solve. A quantum computer will be able to solve that in a matter of 100 seconds. So quantum computing will definitely be really big. But the one thing that maybe will have an even more impactful thing on our day-to-day lives is the concept of ubiquitous computing. And there are different names for it. Ubiquitous computing, ambient computing, some would call it extended reality, but then a little bit further along. And obviously the question is, what is that? Well, the concept of ubiquitous computing is the concept of a computer being all around you. Data being all around you, whenever you need it, wherever you need it, always be there right at the right time, in the right context, as an interface, whether that's a visual interface or a verbal interface, but it's the concept of the computer being all around you. And you already have some of those devices in your home on the early stages. Maybe a Google Home is a good example of that. That's an ambient, even though it's it's fixed in a position, but it's one of those natural ways of interacting. And ubiquitous computing or ambient computing in the future will really dramatically change the future. And I think this is where virtual reality is a beginning phase of, but we're not just there yet. And this is actually the interesting part. We're actually in a digital umami. We're in a quintessence. I like to use fancy words. I heard umami is the perfect combination of taste, or it's perfection. And that's really true. That is what ambient computing is. And the fun thing is, we actually have a lot of these ingredients. Ambient computing is the combination, the blending of mixed reality, augmented reality, and virtual reality in a single space. It doesn't matter if you wear a VR headset, an AR headset. In the future, it will probably be a single device. It will be able to switch to a full world view, or be an overlay, or an augmentation of the reality that you wear. It will maybe even be a pair of glasses or a contact lens in the future. But that blending of VR, AR, and mixed reality is really what's needed to be able to do ambient computing. It's also about the infusion and embedding of AI. It's really important that these interfaces that we have will feel natural, that if we talk to someone from a different language, from a different country, that it will automatically in real time be translated. That the experience that we feel will feel more natural because they expect what is coming. And so we see the embedding of AI already in everything. If you don't think AI is that far, if you use Google Maps to drive somewhere, that suggestion that says, oh, on traffic A, B, and C, that you normally have on this route, we expect the time that it will take you to drive, that it will take you 25 minutes this time. Or if you send an email to Frank, there's a reason that we bought LinkedIn, for example. It's not because we like the social media platform so much, It's the reason that I have a meeting with Frank upcoming, and my Outlook says, "Hey, by the way, do you know Frank you went to the same school? Maybe that's a good conversation starter you should have." So those type of things are already being implemented in a lot of software. You see them popping up everywhere, maybe as an infusion of AI. But you also see it in devices. So you will see it in Teams room systems in not too distant future. There are already some pilots out where you will see a Teams room system that will automatically be able to transcribe a conversation. So that embedding and infusion of AI is a really important ingredient in ubiquitous computing. It's also important that we have AI at human parity, which means that AI will be at the same level when it comes to understanding, when it comes to hearing, when it comes to speaking, as a human. And we're already touching a lot of bars on this front. So we already have at same level text to speech or speech to text. We have computers now, AI algorithms that are able to detect images at the same level as humans can, and maybe even better. So that AI at human parity is a really important ingredient for ubiquitous computing. Another ingredient that we need to make this a reality is cloud-based spatial maps and spatial anchors. It's kind of interesting that if you walk around the street and you want to have an augmentation on a, I don't know, let's say a trash can, and it streams cloud data into your device, and it guides you into which thing you have to throw in which part of the bin, that bin is not on the wrong side. Or if you're trying to do a repair with another person, that the one person doesn't see something here and the other one person sees something over there, that you're actually looking at the same thing. So that cloud-based spatial, that anchoring of virtual reality to the physical world is a really important ingredient for ubiquitous computing. The other one is that we need depth sensing technology. We need really great depth sensing technology to be able to make sure that things don't drop through a table, that things are actually on the right spot, that they actually make sense in comparison to the real world. So the HoloLens has a depth sensing camera in it, a really great one, which is a derivative of the original Xbox Kinect, where you could play tennis with. That evolved even in a device now that we have an Azure Kinect. But even the latest iPhone has LiDAR in it, which, by the way, I think is in a lot of cases probably some of the technologies that you will see coming back in other products as well. But it's a really ingredient for ubiquitous computing. The other ingredient that we need for ubiquitous computing is remote rendering. So a headset like this, specifically a headset that's standalone, isn't capable of giving you the best graphics that you need. If you're looking at a very, very complex engine, you want to see every little bit of detail, if you even want to have real-time data from a bridge that you captured before and being able to be streamed in front of your eyes, it needs to be perfectly crystal clear. And devices like these are not capable at the moment, not of rendering millions, if not hundreds of millions, if not thousands of millions of polygons in front of your eyes. So remote rendering is a really important ingredient also to make this a reality. And we also have things out like Azure Remote Rendering that you can use in the HoloLens for those type of applications. So you see the advances coming in this space. The other thing, obviously important, if you want to really have a world that understands, is that you have contextual data, that you have IoT data, sensors, devices collecting data and then streaming it back in your headset. And the last ingredient to make ubiquitous computing a reality is holoportation. So all of these ingredients are, and now the nice thing comes along. Sorry, one more slide in between, forgot about it. Obviously all of these things, but you could guess that already a little bit from the picture behind this, need to be really powered by the intelligent cloud and by really intelligent edge devices. And that could be a contact lens in the future, or a HoloLens, or a VR headset. So, with that being said, you might have seen this announcement.
Connection is a spark that gives our lives meaning. It drives us to seek out others who feel the same way.
Okay, why don't you input the data and we'll take a look together. Hey Mari, what you got for me?
To find those who share our views, yet offer different perspectives.
Slow this neck. Look over here.
Challenge us with new ways of seeing.
But I think we should
deepen our understanding, and enrich our lives.
最后一笔的时候，往前。
Great things happen when we commit to something bigger than ourselves.
Take a closer look at it.
Place this here. Let's see how we go from there, okay?
This sense of collaboration and the feelings of connection it brings excites us.
Hey, just in time. I'm gonna move it slightly, okay?
It's yours, take it.
We have 2 planes right now on the same trajectory.
As we put people first, technology fades into the background and feels like anything but.
Aisha, what do you think?
I think we had 330, maintaining 2800. We'll be clear for approach.
Excellent.
This changes the way we see the world, and in turn, changes the world we see.
These numbers are looking great, actually.
There's promise in the possibilities, and what we see and create next will stretch the imagination.
Good morning, Sarah.
Morning.
A world without boundaries.
Good job. A lot better than yesterday.
Yeah.
Excellent. Slowly bring
A world where technology enhances, not limits, humanity. With people front, center, and in the spotlight. The future is here. And here can be anywhere. Introducing Microsoft Mesh.
So the funny thing is, I had a customer meeting a couple of months ago, and I was preparing and I was trying to create a presentation, the presentation that you just saw, on the future of ubiquitous computing, on what it would need, what we would need to be able to do real ubiquitous computing. I had my presentation finished on Wednesday, and on Thursday we had Ignite. And we came out with this announcement. We launched Microsoft Mesh. And the funny thing about Microsoft Mesh is it's a lot of these things. It's bringing all of those technologies that I mentioned together. It's will need improvements. It will need further development. It's an SDK that's now being released, but it will allow us to feel real presence, being able to make sure that people join virtually, physically, it doesn't matter, and people can experience the same thing. And it will allow people to connect from anywhere, from any device. It will allow people to have a blend of AR, VR, and mixed reality all together from a single experience. It allows for the real feeling of presence, for people to be able to connect like an avatar, like I am now, which is a nice 3D rendered presentation of myself, or even a full hologram with holoportation using sensing technologies in a specific room, and maybe even a Teams room system somewhere in the future with 3D scanning Kinect cameras in that allow you to be scanned and be projected somewhere else. So you can actually really have an interaction with someone like we do now. Look at the same thing, have a shared understanding. Whether you're physically or virtually, have a sense of presence that the person is there, which in these Corona times is actually not that weird. The second thing, it will allow you to experience things together. If you're doing a repair on something or you're trying to look at this at the same thing, it will create a common understanding. You both be looking at the same thing, maybe from a different viewpoint, from a different position in the world, but you will be looking at the same thing. The other thing it will do, it will allow you to connect from anywhere, from any device, whether that's a HoloLens, a VR headset, a tablet, an iPhone, and we're expanding this to come. But it will allow you to connect from any platform. It will also allow you to really holoportation, to be able to project objects in 3-dimensional shape, where you can completely walk around in lifelike photorealistic position. And it will introduce world-locked holograms. So it will use Azure Spatial Anchors, Azure Spatial Maps to be able to position things in the right space at the right position. It will also allow object-locked holograms. It's kind of nice that it's not only on the right position in the world, but if that object is moving, it also moves with that device. And it will allow for sharing and persistence. So if you turn off your device, and you come back later and you put your device back on, you're actually still looking at the same thing. So these are a lot of the ingredients that I mentioned before, and that it will allow for. It will also introduce, and it will lean very heavily on remote rendering. It will offer the capability to do remote rendering. So if you're streaming, we have a nice case with Bentley Systems. They use drones for construction companies to fly them over bridges, and they then transport that data back into a simulated 3D model using Azure Remote Rendering, so they actually can still look at the real model of a device. So you can implement this also into AR and VR tools and sets. And I think the most important thing about mesh is maybe not even where mesh is now, but what mesh is towards the future. Mesh is first and foremost a developer's platform. And even though there are obviously from a lot of providers platforms that are coming out, my main message is not about mesh. It's about at the forefront of all of these technologies coming together to building this augmented world that we're really looking for. That contact lens. If you ever watched the series Black Mirror, there are some side effects, some bad side effects to it as well. But that technology, like Minority Report, that will allow you to shape things in front of your eyes. It will make ubiquitous computing a reality. And it will have multi-device support. There will be, you can already download HoloLens app from the Windows Store. An AltSpace VR pilot is in the works, so you can sign up for that already. And we'll be coming out with more and more apps, and even with more capabilities on all of these things that we've noted on. But this is the start. This is not the beginning. This is the start. This is the first iPhone that came out in 2006 when it comes to technology. This might be the launch where AR and VR, with some innovation, will hit mass market. And it's because of this. And the most important thing, and I mentioned this already, it's a cross-platform, it's a tool chain, it's for you to develop on, and it will bring these type of things together. And you can read some on this. These might have already seen the announcements, but if you want to know something more about mesh and want to get started, I welcome you to use one of these links to start reading up. And there's a lot more to follow on mesh going forward. And that future that we talked about, that umami, as I mentioned before, that's this. This is what we need to become, to blend into everyday life, that it becomes indistinguishable from it. We need these technologies to merge and able to lift this type of headset that I'm wearing now towards something that is really usable for mass markets, for mass consumers, for it to be one of those three things that will shape the technical future to come. It's that umami. And obviously, there are some hurdles overcome. I'm not saying that tomorrow, don't overestimate the next two. Don't overestimate the next two or underestimate the next 10. Things need to become smaller. I think this is one of the first prototypes you see there on the top of the HoloLens. Devices need to become a lot smaller. They need to become the size that is comfortable to walk around. It needs to be a sunglasses or a contact lens or something so that everybody is more than comfortable wearing it all the time. Then it will become indistinguishable. Then it will blend into everyday life. It will also need a lot of innovation. If I just take the HoloLens as an example again, that is one of the pictures from the laser that goes through the scanning laser that goes through the HoloLens. It uses a liquid metal then to guide the laser into the lens. And we're hitting the limits of physics at the moment. So we're really trying to figure out how do we make this device smaller, better, more capable. But we will get there. It also needs to become a lot cheaper. Devices, the really top devices, 3,500 euros. It's comparable to a very, very expensive MacBook. But for it to hit mass consumer, it needs to be 1,000 euros. Then it will really, and it will need to be a lot more cloud powered. And yes, it will also bring some implications. Some jobs might become obsolete, but others will appear. We also will have to do nuances, which we heard so much about also in the presentation before this. Things like fake. What is real if the world is an augmented place? And obviously there are privacy concerns and maybe even biases, like avatars not representing certain ethnic groups, or AI algorithms that are not there yet, that will still need a lot of solving. So we're not there, but don't overestimate the next two. but also don't underestimate the next 10. So that's my presentation. I want to leave you with the note of that I think this is a really great technology. It was a pleasure to be here virtually on stage, and I hope the 4G connection held and that you actually could follow. So thank you very much.
Joris, thank you very much for your inspiring presentation.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I got a look into the future, especially the hologram. I think, yeah, it would be very interesting. I'm looking forward to see it coming up. But I'd like to look at the audience. Are there any questions to yours on what he talked to? Yeah, there's someone coming to the microphone, and Omar, can you please quote?
Hi. First, thanks for a very insightful look into the future. I have actually two questions. One relating to the innovation around the technologies that you mentioned. Where do you still see the biggest hurdles to bring together the set of technologies that are underneath Microsoft Mesh?
I think to bring Mesh together, I think it's more a matter of time and development time to really do that. And I think if you look at the early SDK, I think the Mesh is now in private. It's just in private pre-fill, so the SDK will be coming out, I think, later this year. But I think it's an extending number of platforms and getting the basic technologies that I mentioned really up and running, making presence, even voice, more connected. So we're at the basic challenges at the moment in getting it on all the platforms and all the technologies connected first. I think those are the first hurdles to overcome. Yeah.
Okay, and my second question is more about the Dutch ecosystem and Microsoft's role in that. You're obviously already very much involved in innovative programs around AI and quantum. So what are your ideas and plans for ubiquitous computing, and related to that, XR? Are you, let's say, missing certain ecosystems, or what is your perspective on that?
So I think as it's now still mainly, if I look at where the real adoption is, it's in the business adoption. Because that's where we really have a mature technology out when it comes to doing things like field service, repair scenarios, training, education scenarios. And I think it's where I see the biggest gap is it's in the end-to-end process at the moment. So partners that can implement for us not only the mixed reality piece, but also the technology piece when it comes to more infrastructure related pieces like IT, but also the field services and what happens if you and also the scenarios where these type of things are tied together. So if you look at a connected factory as an example, it's really nice that you have your machinery connected, or you want a machine that's broken to send an IoT signal into a Dynamics platform or into an ERP or CRM system, and having a field engineer out, and then this is only an endpoint. So for the business applications, it's really about those chains that I think are the most important developments for the adoption of mixed reality. And obviously in design, I think it's easier, but those are at least the scenarios where we're focused on most at the moment.
Great, thanks so much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Christian, you have a question then.
Yes, yours. Thank you very much for your presentation and the vision of the future. I think, yeah, I think there's still, as you also say, a long way to go to get everything on the road.
Yeah,
it's a really big challenge, I would say. But yeah, I think together we'll come there. I have a very practical first question, because we have to make first steps, and I have a HoloLens 2 now, experimenting with it, and I'm really curious. What do you notice is that if you use it outside, the contrast is not very high, and I know also that they are using it for the army in the US, and they're also using it outside. So I'm really curious how they solved the contrast issue, because they probably did something special, or you did something special for them. Do you know a little bit about that? Are you allowed to tell, or?
No, I don't know anything specific. I pretty much know as much as you when it comes to the US Army setup of the HoloLens. I did see some pictures of the device, so that's pretty much it. There are some great online tutorials on how to use blinding and very easy blinding to really make it usable outside. So my gut feeling, but this is not something I know. They probably use some sort of foil or sealing on the device, which is actually something that you can even find YouTube tutorials to do yourself. It is also in the same space as that sort of lens limitation on the size limitation of the lens of the HoloLens. And it's exactly that. We're hitting the physics limits of what a device like that is capable of. So those are things that will take time before they become consumer ready. And that's also if I look at the three things that are standing mixed reality really in the way of becoming mainstream adoption. It needs to become like 3 times so small. It needs to become 3 times as cheap, and it needs to become, from a display perspective, 3 times as powerful. Whether that's more field of view or better outside visibility. And I think those are the 3 biggest hurdles that we need to make devices like a HoloLens become really more mainstream in space even.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I will take a look at those tutorials. You didn't have a chance yourself to try this foils out yourself. Do you have experience with it?
No, I know it's a foil. You can wrap over it. You also can take it off again, so you won't damage. Yeah, you won't damage the device. If you put foil over it and you damage the device because of the foil, you can switch it around with me. I'll promise you that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Joris. Thank you.
Okay, Christian, thank you. Are there any other? Yes. Coming on.
Okay. By the way, just one thing, just that foil thing. That's for him though. Before I start replacing like 400 foil HoloLenses.
The offer is just for one person. Yes.
The offer is for one person. You can make a YouTube tutorial again if it worked, and then I think we're good. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Could you step up to the microphone?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's more clear, right? All right.
Yeah. Yes.
I have a question. Now we're following the program, socializing networking in this virtual reality 4D environment. So what do you think about the competition? The Microsoft Mesh is developing right now compared with now the environment we're involved. So what is the competition you think?
I don't know yet. I'm expecting. It's a really good question. I was a little bit shell shocked of the announcements with Mesh myself. Because I didn't think we were that far from a platform perspective, and maybe even realistically we have also some we will have steps to make even in that perspective. So I didn't think we were that far, but then again I didn't expect the HoloLens to come out like 5 or 6 years ago either. So I think the biggest one will obviously be Facebook, and they're doing a lot. I think they're already more looking at let's call it an operating system for virtual reality. But then again, you don't know what Apple's going to do either. And I think those are at least from the area now, I think the more interesting ones, each with their own uniqueness in it. And maybe with different markets maybe to begin with as well. So I think that's I don't know any competing platform, to be honest, at the moment, but I see some signs in here and there.
Yeah, because I feel like, for example, like now we're in this avatar like 3D module environment, and the Microsoft Mesh develop a live present environment for the people can even see projected by the 3D camera and can even see this person vividly in front of your face. So that is the competition I mean, you know. So second thing is about, actually I feel like the avatar environment somehow is giving the people an opportunity wearing a mask. So you don't know who is the real person behind, but at least for some people in the event industry, and they are not have enough confidence to stand it out, to stand in front of the microphone to deliver their voice. But somehow in this virtual reality world, you don't know who they are. They can sit, they can lay on bed, and they can do whatever they want, but they can also show themselves with this avatar in front of a microphone to say something. So I think in this virtual reality industry, at least they're giving giving a good opportunity for the people be themselves, to be really confident and comfortable for themselves. But the Microsoft Mesh technology, I think you also mentioned Facebook has developed something else. Want to bring the people in the actual world and show really who they are. But sometimes I feel like we need a space for people to not be themselves. So that's what I want to share. That's all. Thank you. So I'm gonna walk back.
Thank you very much. I think this is also the moment I like to get Carlijn and Tim on stage, because we're getting good questions, and maybe we can have a little bit discussion with yours, Carlijn and Tim, together. And also, Bart, maybe you got some questions from the chat
Yes.
regarding to the question from Enexis to the audience. So first, wait, Bart, because first we gave Roy the voice. He was waiting for the microphone. So Roy,
Oh, Bart can go first.
please.
But yeah, shall I go first or Bart? Who do you think, Lucas? Who should go first?
I think Roy's got Bart will hereafter come. Yes.
A question to yours. I saw the quite interesting mesh announcement of Microsoft some weeks ago. To what extent do you think that Microsoft will take responsibility or ownership of what is possible? Because to make it really work, you have to connect with all kinds of data. So whether it's the 3D data coming from any device or platform, whether it's the ERP data, or there's always that connection needed. And to what extent does Microsoft take responsibility to allow those connections, and for how long? Because if we look at especially industrial applications, we see that software is moving along every year. And to get the right data again in your 3D environment, it takes a lot of conversion steps, and we don't want that. What is the role in Microsoft in that one?
So I think there are a couple of dimensions to your question. I think it's, and by the way, it's a really good question. I think first of all, Mesh is a developer's platform, and we always deliver a, let's call it we're maybe in the Windows space or in the modern workplace, we're a full product supplier, but even more on the Azure side and specifically on the developer side, we're I think there's a Dutch word for it, halffabrikaat. We're a component supplier, and Mesh is a developer's platform first. So the application that we're in now, that's an application that could be built on Mesh towards the future. And the capabilities that you see, bringing a hologram in this room, that will be a Mesh capability. So it is about the developer that builds his app, and the data will be his. I think that's one part of it. I think the second part of it is we are a big supporter of something called the Open Data Initiative. So within the most services that we have within Office 365 and Dynamics and Azure, we have something called the Common Data Model. It's an open model where you can access the data from all of those services. And we've extended that into a lot of other providers like SAP and made partnerships with people like Salesforce to extend the Open Data Initiative. And I think that is the biggest problem at the moment there is. That data is kept in silos in different clouds and in different platforms. And looking at data is going to be fundamental to build those type of scenarios that you're referring to be able to connect data from an IoT device and bring it into a sales system, and then bring it into a finance system. But that really needs to be supported by an open architecture. And I think we're really in favor of the industry accepting that as a reality, because it's indeed a necessity. Yeah. Maybe that's, I'm not sure if that's an answer to your question.
Yeah, it is. It's also referring a bit to the next question I had, but I think you covered already. How long will these devices be supported? Because if we're really going to use it as professional tools, we should have some kind of a guarantee that it will work today, but also within some years' time. And even if technology changes, we can easily add new tools to it, add new hardware to it, even though that the whole software platform stays the same. I think that's also one thing you would cover with Mesh, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that there's a difference obviously between devices and the software support in terms of longevity. As long as you can buy a new device and still access the same platform, then does it really matter if we support the device for X amount of years if you can still function is? Well, yeah, for cloud platforms, it's a reality really that we know for all the things that are built on Azure on top of, and we cannot simply shut something down because it is critical infrastructure. We have gas companies, oil companies building their entire infrastructure, railway companies on clouds like ours. So yeah, it needs to be long supported, and it's definitely an important consideration.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Yes, Roy, thank you. Then Bart, maybe you can get the question from the.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions from the live stream. The first one is for Enexis. It states, if the endpoint, for example, a HoloLens, is connected through an end-to-end encryption with the database and the connection and content is maintained based on a biometric data, is that considered as secure as you want it to be? And there was a question from Martijn.
Shall I take this? Well, that's a good point. End-to-end encryption is a good solution. Of course, we need to be sure that it's true end-to-end encryption. We need to be sure that the technology works as it's intended to be. And a funny thing about biometrics is when you're using biometrics, you're actually using personal data. Biometric data is personal data regarding an employee. And the moment you start using that, you'll get into the privacy side of things. You got to be sure that you're actually allowed to use that information from your employees. But yeah, end-to-end encryption might be a good solution.
Okay, interesting. Also, I have two questions, I think, for Joris. This one is from a person called in the chat MVS. Joris, before mass acceptance, is it really the 3 times cheaper, smaller, better approach, or does it first need to have a killer app? Which is first, chicken or the egg? From Marco. So does it need to be cheap, or does it need to be a killer app and does it need to get cheaper along the way after that?
No, I think it's not the platform. The platform is important to build on top of all of the experiences. But if you would have a HoloLens the size of a pair of glasses for €500, and it will have full range of view, I would imagine that I don't see a need already for a mobile phone in a lot of cases. I think that the platform already is pretty pretty advanced, but I think you can already build applications on top of that are sufficient for people to experience on. So I think it's really on the devices are an important part of it. But for it to become ubiquitous computing, for it to be really all around you and do all the things that we need, we also need the platform. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that in the, well, not maybe the next 2 years, but in the next 5 years, the 10 years, 6, 7 years, that we really will see XR devices that are consumer ready. I mean, really consumer ready, and not a gaming or design application only.
Okay. I got another question from RedNowX in the chat. I think you already answered it for a bit, but maybe you want to elaborate on this. It says, Joris, in the space of mixed reality, it feels like HoloLens 2 currently has no competition. However, recently Magic Leap announced partnership with AMD, with tools like Mesh be usable on non-Microsoft mixed reality devices, or will they be usable? Yeah. Well, I already think you said it will be available on more platforms, but maybe you can elaborate if that's the case.
So I think obviously I've seen a little bit of the roadmap of Mesh, and we're obviously targeting the most common platforms to begin with. But I think Microsoft is going a route of being cross-platform anyway in a lot of cases. So things like support for Unreal and probably won't be very far away in the future. So it obviously it also needs a little bit of a user base for us to really want to support. But I expected the world of mixed reality to be a more populated space the closer we get to consumer as well. And it's I'm not sure who will come out with a device that has the same level of adoption, but I'm sure we'll not be the only one in the next period.
Okay, thank you. I think those were the questions in live chat. Maybe someone else has a nice chat for Enexis or Microsoft. Please step forward.
So you Christian, please. Yes.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, we have the perfect match here on stage. I think yours. Could you maybe answer the question to Enexis that Enexis had, because they have HoloLenses, they want to use it in the field, they want to do that in a safe way. So, what's Microsoft offering in this case? What can I do?
So I think you mean that from so I think one thing I would use, and that's actually, and I'm gonna dumb something down and make the HoloLens sound less special than it is. But the HoloLens is just a Windows 10 device. It's nothing more than that. It runs on Windows 10, a derivative of Windows 10. So I would start with using all of the security postures, like a zero trust model on a HoloLens as well, and be able to use things like mobile device management, using policy management, Active Directory authentication, and using all the things that you would normally do with any type of device, because your phone is in that sense not different from a HoloLens. It has a camera in it as well. It's like mobile device management, and that I think maybe doesn't do a HoloLens justice, but in a lot of ways it is the same thing, and it's actually even easier to spot because someone has to wear it on their head. So it's in a data center you might have a mobile phone somewhere hidden in your pocket. So maybe that's the shortest answer I can give. But interesting to hear feedback as well.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, well, what's interesting about what you're proposing, well, not all the augmented reality or mixed reality or virtual reality devices that are right now are easily applied into any MDM system. So I know of the HoloLens that can apply to some of the MDM systems, for example, Microsoft Intune, but that's not the case for all the devices. So when we were talking about this, we were talking about devices in general, and I think it's a good advice, something we are taking into perspective or taking as well, and we're checking our devices upon. But then it really came across that a lot of the devices that are actually now in the market aren't that easily put in just an MDM system as you advise. So I think it's a good first advice, and then back from us. A good advice, and unfortunately it's not always the case that you can just easily put something like a hardware device in your mobile device management. So a good first step, I'd say, also for the market to make that able.
I fully agree, and I think it's it also has to do with the size of the market. So Android, iOS, Windows probably is so much adopted in the workplace, but it might not be for all the operating systems when it comes to device management. So you're right, and that is something to overcome, and that has maybe again to do with adoption as well.
Okay, thank you, Christian. You have another question or remark?
Yeah, I was just maybe for the clarification, or also for the audience, maybe it's interesting. You did some experiments with HoloLens 2, I assumed. How did you use it in practice, and what were your experience from the workers?
Is that a question to yours or to Carlijn?
To both, I think, to Tim
Oh,
and
okay,
to
okay.
Carlijn, just the experience they had at Enexis with HoloLens 2 in the fields. Experience.
Well, we heard some positive reactions about working remotely and helping remotely, and also about having training, for example, so having a procedure stand out. And what we're now really looking upon to is, okay, how can you really put it in a, is it usable in practice? And that's something we are currently researching. So we had some first positive response, but I cannot tell you anything further because we're still doing research.
Okay, maybe next
on
year.
whether it's actually viable.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Christian. other questions? Not coming up. Then I think looking at the clock, we had some very interesting presentation and discussion. So thank you very much, Klein, Tim, Joris, for being here. I'd like to have a little applause on the speakers. We can't make noise with the hands, but very good. Thank you for being here, sharing, be honest, and give a look forward. So I think I'm going to end this session in this room. This was day 3 of our event 2021 from the Industrial Reality Hub. I want to thank you being welcome at Connect 2, having a nice space here to experience the Congress Center. So I think we're going outside and being in the lobby and outside have some personal discussions and get together there. And then I think I will, I won't clean this room, it's very clean, but we're going to leave and thank you very much today. Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Then let's step outside.
Ja, ik wil jullie ook nog even bedanken. Echt mooi dat jullie hebben gedaan.
Ja,
mooi dat het ook weer
fijn
goed
dat
ging,
jullie mochten
Joris, op 4G. Dat is ook wel fijn dat het allemaal is gelukt.
Ja, ik was ook blij dat mijn batterij van het ding het ook volhield. Dus,
Ja, precies.
Nee, super gaaf. Dus ik zal het even op de livestream terugkijken, want ik was ook even met Joris bezig om wat dingen te regelen nog, om het werken te krijgen. Dus gelukkig had ik vanochtend ook al wat gezien, maar nee, super gaaf dat jullie dit hebben gedaan. En ja, mochten we in de toekomst ook stappen maken in dit platform, dan wordt het nog makkelijker. En we gaan ook nog kijken naar mixed reality, hoe we dat kunnen ondersteunen in de toekomst. Want ook een vraag vanuit Enexis, van goh, kunnen jullie ook wat anders ondersteunen dan een Quest? Dus dat zijn allemaal dingetjes die weer rondkomen. Dus nee, super, bedankt.
Nou, hartstikke fijn trouwens dat jullie konden instappen. Dat was ook wel even heel relaxed. Want ik kon niet connecten op het, via naar een Facebook netwerk vanuit Microsoft Corp. Dus dat is heel relaxed.
Heel begrijpelijk.
Ja, geen probleem. Het was fijn. Jij kon uiteindelijk naar ons terugpakken wat wij anders naar jou hadden gedaan. Dus uiteindelijk was het effect hetzelfde, toch? Dus,
Absoluut. Helemaal goed. Super.
Top.
Leuk.
Ja, top. Ja, iedereen gaat even naar buiten. Ik kan nog heel even meet and greet, even dag zeggen. En dan is het programma eigenlijk ten einde. Dus super.
En wat gaan we dan doen?
Ja, maar ook gewoon met wat ze nu hebben. Want dat zijn nou nu veel industriële...
Afronden de woorden voor de stream. Misschien kunnen wij dat samen doen.
Brillen en zo werken.
Lucas, wil jij nog even iets zeggen om af te sluiten, dag 3? Deze sessies in het Engels.
Yeah, it was a great experience. A lot of people were joining us, so it's really great. I think. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I think we have to do this again because if you see at the response we're getting, if you see at the great stories, if you see the interaction, really believing and you can really get connected to each other in another way that wasn't possible expect for real life. So it's great. I think we have a very successful event and thank you very much. See you next year.
Yeah, see you next week.
Yes. Okay. Bye bye.